Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's situation comes to us from Modern, where it was something that came up from time to time because both the cards involved were actually relatively frequently played. Amy's 1/1 Hangarback Walker trades in combat with Nick's Glistener Elf. What happens? Alright, so for those of you who aren't super used to playing with infect cards, one very relevant thing that they do is combat damage from infect creatures is dealt as -1/-1 counters. That is, if a 1/1 creature with infect deals combat damage to another creature, instead of 1 damage being marked on it, it will have one -1/-1 counter placed on it. After the combat damage event happens, then the game will check for state-based actions. Of course, the lethally damaged Glistener Elf will be put into Nick's graveyard, but the really interesting thing happens for Amy's Hangarback Walker. You see, there's actually 2 state-based actions that want to apply to it. First, it wants to be put into its owner's graveyard due to having 0 toughness. However, the other really important one is that if a +1/+1 counter and -1/-1 counter are both on the same permanent, the thing that takes them both off is also a state-based action. Now, unlike a lot of other stuff in Magic, state-based actions are kind of unique in that they can apply simultaneously. That is, there isn't a sequence that has to happen where one state-based action happens first and the other afterwards. Both the counters being taken off and Hangarback Walker being put into Amy's graveyard happen at the same exact time. Now, that means it's a little bit unclear whether it had 1 counter or 0 +1/+1 counters on it at the time it was put into the graveyard. So that makes it a little sketchy whether we'll be getting any tokens at all. Fortunately, there's a specific rule in Magic's CR that helps us out here. This rule says that if a state-based action results in a permanent leaving the battlefield at the same time as other state-based actions were performed on it, the permanent's last known information is based on the game state immediately before any of the state-based actions were performed. So in this case, the number of +1/+1 counters on Hangarback Walker immediately before any state-based actions were performed was 1, and so that's how many counters the game will see when it's deciding how many tokens Amy should get. Alright, so that was really interesting and really cool, but the other really interesting and really cool thing is that this actually could happen in a couple of other different ways. For example, Arcbound Ravager was another card that this came up with. In this case, with Arcbound Ravager, the number of +1/+1 counters it would bestow on its modular friend would also be based on the number of +1/+1 counters it had on it immediately before it blocked any creatures with Infect or Wither, or any +1/-1 counters were taken off of it as a result of some -1/-1 counters being put on it in some other way. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Has this interaction ever come up in a game that you were a part of? Join me again tomorrow for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.